All right, guys. I'm not sure why my photo is not showing, but I'll come off camera for a minute.
Ah, there you go.
Hey, today we have a special guest speaker, gentleman I met through my chamber, the Cerritos Regional Chamber of Commerce. And I first met this gentleman probably some years back before COVID, but I really got a chance to hear him speak at our retreat for the board members. And he really blew me away with his knowledge on leadership. And so today he's going to go through some of the points of becoming a great leader, because a leader is something that you're going to be no matter what industry you're in, if you're looking to do that. And this industry we're in, real estate, definitely have to be a leader, if not other people, but of yourself to get things done. And so without further ado, I'm going to have Mr. Steve Richardson. Steve, you can go ahead and give us a little bit of your bio. I'm on my phone and I don't have it in front of me. If you could do that, that would be great. Mr. Steve.
All right. Hello, everyone. Good morning. A little bit of my bio. My career kind of falls into two halves. The first half of my career, I owned several companies and I specialized in turning companies around. The second half of my career, I ran a large nonprofit. Retired from that to devote more time to advising businesses on how to grow and to coach leaders. A few years ago, I authored a book called Become a Better Leader in 30 Days. And much of what I'm going to share down in that book and what I continue to talk about regarding business and leadership. So there's the brief bio for you on that. So let me just ask folks who are on, is most everybody on video or not? Everybody going to be able to see it or not see it?
Yes, everybody should be able to see them.
Okay, great. So if you're ready to jump in, and I want this to feel, I know doing anything virtually isn't in person, but I want it to feel as in person as we possibly can. And so what I mean by that is if a question comes to mind, please jump in and ask me. We don't have to do the hand raising or anything else. Just turn your mute off and talk to me. And I will certainly try to answer the question. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start right in. And do I have screen sharing capabilities?
Yes.
I do. Okay,
hold on.
Thank you very much. I'm all set here. It looks great.
If everyone can do Steve a favor and place yourselves on mute so we don't have any background noise, unless you're ready to ask a question, then take yourself off mute and then place yourself back on mute. Appreciate it.
That'd be great. All right, so very first question out here. Can everybody see the screen? Let's just make certain we got the tech working okay.
Yes.
So everybody should see a blank. Okay, great. So where we're going to start off this morning is I'm going to give you a basic business model to begin with before we start talking about leadership in particular. I'm asked all the time, because I turn so many different types of companies around, is how did you do that, Steve? You didn't know their product, you didn't know their culture, you didn't know anything, and yet you were able to turn their business around. Well, the answer is very simple. There are three things that are true for all businesses. And so I just want to start there, because all leaders have to exercise control over all three of these areas, one area more prominently than others. But we're going to start out by looking at a triangle. And I call this the 3 Ps of business. And so the very first one, obviously, is people. For any business to succeed, there has to be the involvement of people. I know it's a very simplistic concept, but it is so true. The second thing that is true for every business on the planet is you cannot be in business if you cannot generate a profit. And so all businesses need to generate a profit. And what a profit simply is that by the time you pay everybody, by the time you buy your product to sell, there's money left over, and enough money that you feel good about it. That's profit. And then the third aspect of all business is product. Whether it's a thing that you're selling or a service that you're providing, we all have a product. Now, when we talk about what's involved, there are three types of people that all of us deal with in business. There are employees, there are customers, and there are vendors. Those vendors are people that we get things from, whether it's insurance from the insurance agency to support our business, whether we're buying our product, whether we're buying paper goods, whatever that is. And so in any business, if you're going to look at that business to be successful, you want to have a good group of employees, you want to have happy customers, and you want to have key partnerships with vendors. When it comes to product, there are only two types of products. There are things called goods and there are services. In goods, if I'm going to sell coffee cups, that's a good. If I'm going to sell auto parts, that's a good. If I'm in the real estate business, I'm really providing a service. And so the real estate business is primarily considered a service industry. Now, there is a goods there. There is real property that's being sold, but it's usually not something you're manufacturing. It's something that you're negotiating, you're facilitating for somebody else. Some businesses have goods and services. A classic business that has goods and services is a new car dealership. They will sell you a car, but then what do they want to do for the rest of your life with that car? They want to service that car. And so when we talk about a basic business model and we bring that to the concept of leadership, a leader has to demonstrate leadership over all three areas of this business. A leader has to make certain that we're profitable. A leader has to make certain that the products are of a good quality and that that's actually something that people want to buy. But the majority of our leadership concerns revolve around people. And almost every book ever written on leadership is obviously going to focus on how a leader responds to people and how people respond to that leader. So let me just pause there. Any questions on a basic business model? I mean, it's pretty simple and it's served me pretty well through the years of turning companies around. All right, I'll hop along. So that's our basis. And so I want to give you a basic leadership rule. And you can call this Steve's leadership rule, but it is my core leadership rule. And it may be a little different than what you're normally used to seeing. And so I always start by saying to anybody who wants to be a leader, look behind you. And then I say this: if no one is following you, you are not leading. The most simple definition of leadership is a leader is somebody who people follow. And so the larger question becomes, why does anybody follow anybody? And we're actually going to try to answer that question for you this morning. So I'd like you to do a little exercise. So does everybody have a piece of paper maybe, hopefully handy?
Yes.
Someone say yes to me. I mean, make me feel like I'm not out here in the ether somewhere.
Yeah.
Okay. On that piece of paper, I want you to just draw a line down the middle of that paper. And on one side of that line, I want you to write down who you think is following you. It can be in any setting. It can be in a social setting. It can be in a family setting. It can be in a work setting. But write down a few names of people that you think are following you. And then on the other side of that line, I want you to write down whom you believe you are following. Who are you actually looking up to as a leader? And write a few names down there if you have them. Now, when you've done that, somehow let me know.
I'll do.
Okay, how we doing? Were you able to write down people who are following you?
Yes.
Okay, and Were most of you able to write down a few names of somebody you're following?
Yes.
Okay, great. So here's the next thing that I want you to do. We follow people. Well, there's usually two reasons we're following people. We either want to or we have to. And so on the first side of your list of the people following you, I want you to put a W or an H or a combination. Are the people following you because they have to? So let's say you're leading your kids, they kind of have to follow you, right? That'd be an H. Do you have employees that are following you? Are they following you because they want to or because they have to? So I want you to put a W or an H. If it's both, they have to and you think they want to, put that down. And then on the other side, if you're following somebody, are you following them because you have to or because you want to? Okay, anybody have any questions on that?
No, I got it. Steve.
Okay, how's the rest of the group doing? I haven't heard from the rest of the group.
I got it.
No, we got it. We got it.
Okay, good. Okay, now, here's the trick. In leadership, we want people to follow us because they want to, rather than have to. Now, we know that in a work environment, there are always going to be people following us because they have to. I'm the boss, they're the employee, they have to kind of do that. But ideally, I want them following me because they want to. And so the real question is, how do we achieve people wanting to follow us? And that leads to the question, why does anybody follow me? So when I was trying to figure this out, I've just been in a position through my entire life that people were following. And so I finally sat down one day and I asked myself, well, why? Why are they doing that? And so I have some ideas that I want to share with you today as to why people are following me or would follow you. But before I do that, if you had one word that you could share as to why you follow somebody or why you believe someone's following you, what would it be?
I would say value.
Okay.
I see value or provide value. That's why people want to follow you.
Okay, great.
Trust.
Trust. Very good. Anyone else? All right. When we get down to the end of the day, people will throw out lots of words as to why they would follow somebody. They'll use integrity. They'll use authentic. They'll use lots of words. Regardless of the words that they use, it all tends to boil down to one word. Ultimately, no one will follow you unless they trust you. And so the question for a leader is, how do I generate trust in people that follow me? And this is going to be true for whatever level you lead, whether you're leading your family, whether you're leading a sports team, whether in the real estate field, you are leading your customers toward the conclusion of a deal. They have to feel that they trust you. And so I'd like to share a paradigm with you on how a leader generates trust. And so I call this the triangle of trust. And I sometimes call it the 3 C's because each word begins with a C, but so we have a triangle. And would anybody like to guess one of the C words that I'm going to use in this triangle of trust? Does anyone feel bold enough to give that a go?
It's a pure guess. I would say
It is,
confidence.
okay.
Confidence.
You know, confidence is a great word, but it's not one of the three words. You know, there's an awful lot of really great words that begin with C. So Denise, thank you. That was a good try. Anyone else want to take a shot? All right. The first word. Did someone say character?
I said
Denise?
consistent.
What now?
Consistent.
Oh, consistent. Consistent is a
Denise?
great word.
Denise said character.
Oh, character. Actually, character is one of the words. I'm not going to deal with it first, but we will deal with it. Let me give you the first word because it's a word that most people don't think about. Charisma. Now, what exactly is charisma? And I'm going to give you a very simple definition. Charisma is the personal energy that an individual has that attracts other people to them like a magnet. Now, you're probably asking yourself right now, I don't know if I have charisma. Well, everybody has charisma. It's just a question of how much you have. All great leaders have a lot of charisma. And charisma is in a lot of leadership books, you may have heard the old question raised, are leaders born or are leaders made? Really, a lot of the people that lean on the side of leaders being born, it comes out of this concept of charisma. Because we're all born with some, but some of us are just given more than others. We have to use what we have. And if you don't have a lot, that doesn't mean you'll be an ineffective leader. It just means you have to work harder on the other areas. And so charisma is this kind of magnetism that draws people. I am certain that we have all had the experience of people that there's something about the force or presence of the personality that just makes us want to be around them. That's charisma. Charisma is this innate thing in people and in leaders that automatically gives them a head start on people wanting to trust them. And so that's the first aspect. And so I always teach people who aren't certain that they have charisma that yes, you do, and you just need to rely on it a little more and to experiment with it and see how that works out for you. The second,
excuse me, Steve.
Yeah.
Hi, Michael Johnson here. How you doing?
Good, Michael.
Good, good. Can I please ask Virginia and William to please mute their microphones, please? Thank you. Okay, go ahead, Steve.
All right, a little housekeeping. Okay, our second C word is the word competence. Now, most of us, when we think of trusting somebody, we want to actually believe or trust that they know what they're talking about. So let me give you an example of this. And there's two types of competencies. If I hit this right. Yeah, there are two types of competencies. There are hard skills and there are soft skills. And so let me apply it to the real estate industry. Your ability to know real estate law, to know the details of what it means to fill out a buyer's agreement or a seller's agreement, your ability to work with an escrow company, we're going to call those hard skills. What we're going to call soft skills is your competence in communicating exactly what's going on to the buyer or to the seller's agent or to the escrow company or to the title company. Your ability to negotiate is a soft skill. Your ability to solve problems that come up in the process are a soft skill. And so some people call hard skills technical skills, but in leadership, the competencies that will make people trust you the most are the soft skills. They're going to trust you because you can make a decision. They're going to trust you because you communicate well. They're going to trust you because you know how to listen. They're going to trust you because you know how to solve a problem. And those are the soft skills. While they appreciate the fact that you know real estate law forwards and backwards, you know the nuances of leasing, you know what the market value stuff is. They appreciate that, but at the end of the day, that is not why they follow you. It opens a door to them following you, but they're really following you because of your soft skills, or what I call your soft competencies. And so I think you need to be aware of that. I think sometimes we believe if we just have great expertise in something, that that is enough of a competence for people to trust us. And it is not. It's a good way to open the door. But the way to keep somebody following us in our competencies are all the soft skills: how we communicate, how we facilitate, how we solve problems, all those areas. And so there's charisma. That's that natural part of our personality that draws people to us, that gives us kind of a foot up on people wanting to trust us. Then there are competencies, both hard and soft skills. And the third area, as someone identified for us earlier, is character. Now, the majority of books on leadership are going to deal with character. We're going to hear about authenticity, integrity, follow through, taking responsibility. My list could go on and on for words that we may think about character. But there are only two character traits that actually matter in leading people and why people will follow you. Because what happens on character, we bring a lot of our value systems to bear on what we think is good character and what we think is the character needed by leaders. But in reality, there's just two. And let me see if I can, oh, sorry. I hit the wrong button. Okay, here we go. There's only two. The first one is truthfulness, and the second one is being tenacious. And I'd like to talk about truthful first. In American leadership, this is the fundamental character trait that we look to. Now, to test this out, when you think back, I would like you to name two presidents in the history of the United States that are the epitome of truthfulness. Can you name those two presidents? Anybody?
Abraham Lincoln.
Abraham Lincoln. Okay,
Jimmy Carter.
Abraham Lincoln is one.
Jimmy Carter.
Not Jimmy, sorry.
JFK.
Sorry, Jimmy doesn't make this list.
What about
one other-
JFK?
JFK, no.
Barack Obama.
No, think historically in American mythology about presidents, who the second president, you know, Abraham Lincoln, he had the moniker Honest Abe. So there was something that identified him as being very, very truthful. Honest Abe. Who's the other one?
George Washington.
George Washington. Because haven't we all heard the story somewhere growing up about when he was a boy, he cut down the cherry tree and could not what? He could not tell a lie. And so this idea of truthfulness from our founding president to one of our most significant presidents, Abraham Lincoln, was this idea of truthfulness. Now, other presidents, obviously, throughout history, have been perceived as being very, very truthful. The second trait that is very, very important is this concept of tenacity or tenaciousness. And let me give you a picture of what that means. Think of yourself walking down the beach, and suddenly a pit bull races up to you and attaches his jaws to your ankle. And no matter what you do, he will not let go. That's what it means to be tenacious. And what people want from their leaders, they want to believe that their leaders are telling them the truth, and they want to believe that regardless of any obstacles, of any holdups, a leader will get them to the goal that the leader promised them to get them to. It's this idea of tenaciousness. Now, let me give you two examples of tenaciousness actually from generals in the United States. The first one is Ulysses S. Grant. Now, when we talk about character, Ulysses S. Grant was not considered by many to have high character. People thought he drank a little too much. People thought that his social skills was actually better with horses than it was with humans. He was a little bit on the shy side. But if you read the letters of men that served with him, they believed that when Ulysses S. Grant talked, he was telling them the truth. And they believed that when they followed him, he would win. He would get them to their military goal. Another example is from World War II. And this would be, boy, I can't think of his name right now. Oh yeah, someone help me out here. I've just drawn a blank, but he was a World War II
Patton?
Thank you, George S. Patton. Who said that? I'm going to give you extra stars. So George S. Patton was a very unlikable human being. He was rude. He was brash. He had an ego that many could not stand. Yet once again, his soldiers would say that they would follow him to hell and back. Why? Because they believed that he would get them to the goal. And they actually believed that when he said that, he was telling the truth. So this concept of truthful and tenaciousness is very, very, very strong. Now, just to show you how difficult it is for us to add much beyond truthful and tenacious to our character list, I'm going to give us a test. Are you ready? Everybody ready? Okay,
Yes.
so here's what we're going to do. You're going to love this. It is your job to elect the next world leader. And we have 3 candidates. And I'm going to read something about each candidate to you, and then you're going to vote at the end. So candidate A, this is to be the next world leader. Here's what we know about candidate A. Associated with crooked politicians, consults with astrologists, has had 2 mistresses, chain smokes, and drinks 8 to 10 martinis a day. That's candidate A. Did you all note that down? Okay. Here is candidate B. Was kicked out of office twice, sleeps until noon, used opium in college, drinks a quart of whiskey every evening. Whew, I don't know. That's pretty interesting. Okay, are you ready? Candidate C. Candidate C is a decorated war hero, is a vegetarian, doesn't smoke, drinks an occasional beer, has never had any extramarital affairs. Okay, those are your 3 candidates for the next world leader. Have you all voted for one? Okay, who voted for candidate A? Anybody brave enough to vote for candidate A?
Can't get him up.
Okay, no, did anybody vote for candidate A? Okay, no votes. How about candidate B? Did anybody vote for candidate B? Okay, guys. Who voted for candidate C?
I did.
I did.
Okay, we have a lot of people voting for candidate C. It just so happens that each of these candidates were actual historical persons, and the things I've just said about them were true. If you would have voted for candidate A, you would have been voting for Franklin Delano Roosevelt.
Yeah.
who is the longest tenured president that the United States has ever had.
Okay.
It is said about Franklin Delano Roosevelt that his charisma was so great that people that listened to him on the radio felt like that he was talking to them. Have you ever heard of the phrase the fireside chats?
Yes.
Those were all radio talks by President Roosevelt. If you had voted for candidate B, you would have been voting for Winston Churchill, who was the most tenacious politician that we probably have seen, that we would never give up, never give up. We would fight them on the land, on the air, on the sea. You know the speech, probably.
Victory.
Victory. Now, those of you who voted for candidate C, you actually voted for Adolf Hitler.
Oh. Yeah.
Oh, crap.
So here's my point. We have a huge way of deciding on people's behaviors that we may approve with or not approve with, whether they have good character or not. And we cannot always tell that, because the three men that I have identified here had very different behaviors, but they were all great leaders. We may not agree with where Hitler led his followers, but did he have followers? Did his followers believe that he was truthful and tenacious, that he would bring in the Third Reich,
Yes.
that he would restore the fatherland? They absolutely did. Did people, even though Winston had some questionable behaviors, I mean, drinking a quart of whiskey a day, who knows? Did they believe he was truthful and tenacious? They did. Franklin Delano Roosevelt, they believed the same thing. And so the American people are tremendously forgiving if you are truthful and tenacious. Now, let me give you two examples from the 20th century presidents of how the American people can be very unforgiving, especially if they think you've lied to them. Can you name two presidents from the 20th century? You notice I'm specifically saying the 20th century because I really don't want to deal with Trump stuff. Two presidents from the 20th century that lied to the American people, and the American people had a hard time forgiving them.
Bill Clinton.
Bill Clinton is one. Yes. The other one?
Nixon.
Richard Nixon. Okay, it wasn't hard for those names to come off the top of our head, was it? Because the perception was clearly for the American people that they had not been told the truth. And the facts are, let's take Bill Clinton. You know, the famous statement from Bill Clinton that really kind of doomed him with a lot of the American people was, "I did not have sex with that woman." The only people that believed him was his very inner circle, who were so clouded by his tremendous charisma that they refused to see the truth. If Bill Clinton had said to the American people, "You know what? I made a big mistake. Yep, I had sex with that woman. I shouldn't have done that." Would the American people have forgiven him that?
Eventually.
More than likely they would have, because the American people as followers are very forgiving of moral downfalls, of character flaws, if it's not related to truthfulness and tenaciousness. It's a very unique thing in American leadership culture. And so if you want people to follow you, you have to have a combination of your charisma working, these two character traits, and your competencies, primarily your soft skills, working in harmony. Now, here's something now that we've talked about all three, let me just tell you something that can warp people's perception. The greater your charisma, the easier it is to warp people's perception of your character or your competence. In other words, you can fool people because of this magneticism of your personality. But over time, character and competency will shine through. And if you don't have these, you will fail in the long run. But it actually takes all three. If you don't have a lot of charisma, you know, the character and the competency have to shine forth a little more. But all three kind of blend together and work together. I call it the triangle of trust. And in my experience as leading people, these are really why people follow me. There is no other reason. And when they all work together, it evokes this response that we call trust. And they will follow me willingly. They'll defend me to other people willingly. I don't have to make them follow me. And that's the heart of real leadership, is that people follow you because they want to. And then let's just hope you're leading them in a good direction. All right, let me open it up for comments and questions.
Steve, how long did it take you to come up with this theory or this idea?
Yeah, I call it a paradigm, this particular paradigm. It took me, for me to reflect on it in total, probably 30 years.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Took me a while to you know what happens in real life is since I've been a leader since I was at a fairly young age, I just lead. I didn't spend a lot of time reflecting on why people were following me. And so it wasn't until a little later in life that I sat down to reflect on this. And it was probably driven by the fact that I had a bunch of friends in my circles who kept harassing me about writing a book on leadership, and I kept resisting to write one. And so I finally kind of gave in to that and sat down and started reflecting. Really until that point, I just led, I did my thing. I didn't reflect a whole lot on why people follow.
Okay.
I know, is that too brutally truthful?
No, completely understand. I haven't written a book, but I've had some similar situations from a very young age where, you know, even as a kid, people just wanted to follow me. So I can identify.
Yeah, I say it started back when we used to play follow the leader.
Yeah.
As kids, but this was way back when we still played outside, didn't have toys to play with.
Right.
You know, there was always somebody that everybody else wanted to follow versus somebody else, and so it just starts there on why people follow and why they trust.
Do you think that's an innate character through just something that's innately, or is it something that's learned?
Well, I certainly think that character and competencies are learned. I think charisma is that innate thing that can be enhanced and used. And you know, charisma can be used for good or bad.
Right.
On that, but I would say the innate part of leadership tends to be the charisma part. Everything else can certainly be learned and built upon.
Okay.
Hey, Steve, I have a question. We urge our executives to do mailings. And in those mailings, some of the mailings that we receive, they talk about certain things. Which mailings do you think that would be good to accent one's character and one's competence? Do you have any ideas of the type of mailings that people could use to enhance those two?
Well, on the competencies in the mailings, you want to focus on the soft skills. You want to focus on the fact that you know, no deal is just super smooth, but when there's any issues, we're going to be able to solve your problem quickly and efficiently. On the character side, it's a little easier in a mailing to identify the ability to see things through, and that would be the tenacity. The truthful thing is much harder to communicate. That's more experienced than talked about. In other words, when you communicate with people, they're going to get a sense of whether you're telling them the truth or you're not. The tenacity you can kind of talk about. You can say, we are committed to finishing the deal. We're committed to helping you get to your goals. That kind of speaks to the whole tenacity thing. On the competency part, you want to say that, we're good listeners. We know how to facilitate relationships. We know how to get through this process.
Great,
And so
thank you.
that's where I would kind of focus on those.
How
Thank you.
do you incorporate tenacity to an individual or individuals without being overwhelming in terms of being pushy? Or is that just different in terms of overwhelming?
I think they're a little different. Tenacity is something that gets conveyed that they have trust in you that you're going to see this through to the end.
Okay.
That's tenacity.
Okay.
Now, being brash or being pushy is going to fall more under the soft skill side of life. That, are you tactful? Are you firm? Or are you pushy?
Okay.
See, those fall more into the communication soft skills of it.
Okay. Excellent.
All right. Any other questions at all? Okay.
I have a quick question for you. So Michael just asked regarding stuff in writing, right? Mail outs.
Yeah.
In today's age, social media, Instagram stories, facing the camera to yourself, how would you show leadership there? How would you show, again, kind of the same questions without being the pushy, without being cocky, I guess, keep the confidence. Any suggestions on how to show that? I guess the charisma, once you face the camera towards you, I guess the charisma kind of flows if you have it. Like you said, you can probably work on it. But
if you have it, if you have it, charisma will come through virtually or on camera to some extent. It's never the same as being in that person's personal sphere of influence. It's never the same, but it can operate. When you're on Instagram and some of these other things, especially when you're selling a service and not hawking a product, it is really about likability. In other words, you have to do they have to like you. It isn't so much about you knowing stuff or anything else. Do you come across likable? Because it's just a glimpse of who you are. And all likable is going to do for you is maybe get you to a next step of a conversation that can then build trust. Now, if you have charisma, yes, maybe it'll help that likability thing come over on screen a little better, but no guarantees.
So during the time of Franklin Roosevelt, there was no social media, very few televisions, and he had the fireside chat. So where did he begin to get the, not necessarily the charisma, but the tenacity to get people to follow him? And I know you said earlier, he became very likable and he was trustworthy. But, if we look at what he did without social media and had the country behind him the way they did, where did he begin to get that particular characteristic? Was it innately just his character of his character of being the charisma that he had?
Yes, obviously the charisma played a part, but in those days, remember, you had a lot more public rallies.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah,
um,
exactly.
public engagement for that to happen. And then by the time he was doing the fireside chats, we were in a world war,
Okay,
you know, and so his ability to communicate that we're going to win, we're not going to give up. Over the radio, that tenaciousness came through,
okay,
because where truthfulness and tenaciousness really shine are in a crisis,
okay,
right?
Yeah.
In other words, in a crisis, I can be more brutally truthful than I could under normal circumstances. Like when I went in to turn companies around, I could be brutally honest that your product stinks, that your customer service sucks, and
mhm,
we're going to have to fix it. You know, and so crisis allows you more latitude in being brutally honest.
okay,
And then people respond. If you're not in a crisis, you have to be more tactful in how you communicate
Okay.
the truthfulness of a situation.
Thank you so much. This is very helpful.
I'm glad you find it helpful. I really am. So it's been a pleasure. I wish I could see all your faces. You know, I see Denise, and the rest of you are kind of in the ether sphere a little bit. Ah, William, nice to see you. Thank you. So, Michael, good morning. Oh, you got the nice virtual background. That's good. So,
Good seeing you again, Steve.
yeah, good seeing you also. So I'm glad to share that. I hope that the two models help you on how business is basically structured, and that we rely on people extensively. And at the end of the day, some people have to follow us, but ideally we want them to follow us because they trust us. And hopefully my particular paradigm at least gives you a concept of how to build trust in leadership. So it's been a pleasure being with you this morning. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Steve.
Everybody, today is Raphael's birthday. So happy birthday, Rafi.
Happy birthday, old man.
He already,
Raphael, happy
birthday.
birthday.
Happy birthday.
he already jumped off and went to celebrate. So when you
Oh,
Oh,
call him, make sure to give him a call.
Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe go drink a half a quart of whiskey.
Guys, this has been great. Steve, thank you for your wisdom today. It's definitely appreciated. And I know you got some more in the tank, so this may not be your last time speaking with us. All right.
well, I would look forward. Thanks for having me. Pleasure being able to share with you all today.
Thank
Have a
you
great
so
day.
much.
thank you. Thank you
You're
for
welcome.
breaking down the model of the business. Is the way you put it is such a simplistic, and it's easier to work on something that is simple versus
Mhm.
complicated. So I appreciate that.
Oh, you're very welcome. It's that model has served me well in turning companies around through the years. So,
All right, guys. Have a great day.
all
We're in-
right. Thank
Thank you.
you.
All right,
Thanks,
Steve.
bye-bye.
Bye.
I know.
All right. I'm back on here. I'm going to head off. Everybody have a great day.
All right.